We're live, ladies and gentlemen. This is WeatherBrains episode number 722. This is the pre-show, a magical, marvelous time of the program where we do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and we say outrageous things. So let me put the embed code on here. We'll try and get our guests on. All right, embed code is on. And I do believe we are on the air. Yes, we are. Okay. So we'll see if this puppy can fly. Replaced the computer this week for the first time since early 2012. Wow, going almost 8 years on the old computer. And the battery wouldn't hold a charge. The keys were popping off. It was time. So we'll talk about that in just a second, but let's see if we can get some of our guests on here. This is for Monday, November 18th. And if you're looking for the actual show content, just move the slider over about 9 minutes, and that's when this thing is going to start. But we always get on here early and let you hear our foolishness. All right, so let's invite Aubrey and Kim and John and Troy and Nate, Bill, Kevin. I think that's everybody. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's it. So we're going to send that invitation. And in mere moments, they should be popping on the air with us. So, yeah, the 8-year-old computer, almost 8-year-old computer has been retired. Breaks my heart. I need to sit back and try and think of all of the WeatherBrains we have done with that computer since early 2012. Weather extreme videos, the tornado outbreaks, winter storm outbreaks. We've worked with this thing, the University of Alabama football Jumbotron updates. I mean, it has been a stud muffin. But, you know, I guess it was time. So this is the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. And I'm not so sure that typically what I do when I get a new computer, I just migrate everything over from the old one. But since I've had this other one for like almost 8 years, they tend to have a lot of cruft and things in there that you don't necessarily need to bring over, and programs that you haven't used in 5, 6, 7 years, and just stuff. So I decided to do a clean install, which is time consuming. So I spent a decent part of my weekend putting everything back on here. Really was not that bad. Was not that bad. But I think we're okay. The biggest issue, it's going for the new connector types, because with the old one, it had Thunderbolt 2, and that was the brand new interface at the time for peripherals. And now we're using USB-C. So I'm in dongle Hades. Kevin, you ever been in dongle Hades before?
Is that near Midland?
Yeah, exactly. It's right between Midland and Odessa.
Okay.
Dongle Hades.
Then no, I have not.
No.
Why are you there?
Hey, Aubrey. So.
Oh, is it over? Is the thing over?
Sunday was your big night. How'd it go?
It's over. It's over. You know what? Believe it or not, I almost had a panic attack during dress rehearsal.
Wow.
I got a horrible, horrible case of the nerves as soon as we got into dress rehearsal. So it went okay. I was able to kind of get myself together as best I could. It wasn't my best performance, but I did my best. I was able to pull in the People's Choice Award for the most money from Friday night through the event. And
nice.
So
how much did you raise?
All right, so more than $25,000.
Whoa!
Wow!
When we got the totals today, me and the girl who went into it with the most money, who won the Mirrorball Trophy, we were $8 apart.
Oh my goodness!
$8 apart.
You came in second by $8.
Isn't
Well,
that something?
I don't think I didn't come in second because my dance was not as good as hers. I was telling the guys I got a really bad case of nerves. And so my dance was actually, it was not as good as I'd practiced all week. So I'm glad she won. She had a really good dance. And I'm very happy for her. I pulled in an award for pulling in a lot of money. I pulled in $9,000 just the night of the event. But we were within $8 of each other.
That's amazing.
And I was like, I had $8 in my wallet. I could have thrown it. You know, you don't know. You
Show
know,
title.
and yeah. My brother's like, I put in a 20. I could have put in 30. You know, you don't know. But it wouldn't have made a difference because her dance was so much better than mine. And I got an award. She got an award. It was fun. We had a great time. I'm mad at myself because I just got these nerves that were just so surprising.
What was the physical manifestation of the nerves, the panic attack?
So as soon as I hit the dance floor during dress rehearsal, like my mouth got dry and it was like I was hungry, but I wanted to throw up. And
Another show title.
And my heart was racing. I could not get my heart to just like stop from basically being in my throat. It was just
Really?
pounding. And it was so surprising because I mean, I in front of people all the time. I do presentations. I'm in front of a camera. And I mean, I've never done theater before, and I haven't done a dance performance since I was a teenager. So I was just kind of really surprised. And we practiced a couple of times and it got better. And I tried to eat something and then just drank some water. And,
But you felt that way through the dance, through the performance?
it was better through the actual performance, but I was still just a little bit, I just could not shake some of these nerves. I couldn't loosen up as I really wanted to. So it was just frustrating because I knew that's not how I had practiced, that's not how I had done. So it was just kind of frustrating in that aspect, but I was a lot better compared to the first dress rehearsal going into it. So I'm thankful for that. But I went out there, I had fun. It was kind of a whirlwind of a day. It was a huge performance. It was just a fun event. We had a really good time and made a lot of great friends. And
you raised a ton of money.
We raised a ton of money. We set the record. We pulled in almost 145,000. We raised 144 plus.
How many teams?
7 teams.
Really? Wow.
7 teams.
Wow.
So it was just a huge, huge event.
That's great.
Are you relieved that it's over?
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. I didn't leave the couch until I absolutely had to.
And would you do it again another year?
Nope.
You want to think about it?
Nope, not a chance. How can I screen share? Yeah, those are the totals.
Wow.
Holy smokes.
Hey,
145.
nice.
Excellent.
$8. Can you believe that?
Well, darn.
That's incredible.
You got ours right, Aubrey. It did arrive.
Yes, absolutely. Everything. Thank you so much. And Kevin, I appreciate that. That was just, you guys are wonderful. And to Twitter people, I had Twitter people, and I know some WeatherBrain listeners donated. So that was a huge support. And in this case, every dollar really did matter, and
do you know how many people made up your 25K?
I don't. I have the list. I could count.
I
do know that I contacted about 200 local businesses.
Oh.
Not everyone said yes, but I did contact about 200 businesses. There's the stop sharing.
We still have to raise about 25 million around here for the World Games, Aubrey. So if you could come help us and
hold a bingo night, I'm telling you, do a purse bingo and a raffle. that last raffle that I did for this purse and a necklace, I mean, that pulled in almost $1,500 in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
That was great.
What's the World Game? What's the World Games?
They're one of those multi-sport things, that brings 3,000 competitors 31 Sports coming to Birmingham in 2021.
I've never heard of that.
It's like the Pan American Games, sort of like a junior, smaller Olympics.
People won't donate $5, but you ask them to donate $5 for a raffle, they'll do it.
So let me welcome our television audience. It's 30 minutes after the hour. Thank you for joining us on the TV side. This is WeatherBrains, and we're about to get this thing started. Hey, Mike, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. James, what's going on, everybody?
Hi.
Loud and
Hey.
clear.
Yep.
Brian, can you hear us okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Loud and
Weird.
clear. Man, you
I like
guys
that
got
old
good
silly
video.
Google Hangouts we used to mess with.
Zoom
Take
is
that,
awesome.
Google.
Zoom is great.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
we
is.
have had very good luck with this. So
We're
let's get
batting
this sucker
1,000,
started.
James, with this.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. All right, so
Does this mean this is no longer our measure of how smart people are?
I think so.
We have to come up with a new metric for all the PhDs.
Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is WeatherBrains episode number 722 for the 18th of November, 2019. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Almost time to get to Thanksgiving here. We're looking at Thanksgiving week in about a week. Wild weather potentially right before the Thanksgiving holiday, the biggest travel day of the year. But before we do anything else, let's see who's on the show tonight. Aubrey, you have to be relieved. Your dancing career is on hold now.
I'm done. I can sleep today.
At least you didn't break a hip or
I
anything.
hung up my shoes. No hips broken, no knees snapped. Everything went well. I did not fall on my face. So
Tell us about how was
the
it?
video? Where's the video and the pictures?
So I actually just posted those on Facebook. The video might still be processing, but the photos are on my Facebook. So search meteorologist Aubrey on Facebook. I know, I'm sorry, Kevin, but
What is this Facebook? you
I know
speak of?
it's the also nicknamed the face bag. So you can
This is true.
So search for
Box,
meteorologist Aubrey. You don't have to worry about spelling the last name. And I put an album up there, and there's a video clip. I don't have the full video, but there is a video clip of my dance. It is the cha-cha, and it was to Senorita. I told you guys it was a new song, so it was a very fast song. And I was saying in the pre-show that I got an absolutely horrible case of the nerves yesterday.
How does this happen? You're on television every night.
You know what? I know. And it completely caught me off guard. I mean, I've done presentations in front of people. I have no idea. It was not a feeling. I've never felt that way. Even when I first started television, I never felt that way. That was a very odd feel. I was talking to one of the other ladies who does counseling and coaching and stuff. She thinks I was almost on the verge of a panic attack. And I have no idea where it came from. Because I thought I was, relaxed and ready and confident and felt good. And I got on that dance floor during dress rehearsal, and my heart was I thought it was going to explode. So I don't know what it was. And a lot of people say that that's just what happens when you get, just something different. You get on that dance floor, the spotlight's on you. It's very different. And it was better by showtime, but it was still something I just couldn't shake, and I did not expect it. So it wasn't my best performance, which is a little frustrating because I knew I could do better, but I did go out there and I gave it my all, and I was able to get the heartbeat down to maybe somewhat normal. Not in the explosion category, and we did our best. But you know what? The bottom line is, one, I had fun. I had a great time. It's been an incredible process. I made some amazing friends. And we raised a heck of a lot of money. And the girl that won, her dance was amazing. Her and I have become very good friends. She won the Mirrorball Trophy, and we got our final totals today. And our totals, we both pulled in more than $25,000.
Wow.
We're within $8 of each other.
Wow, that's
Fair,
crazy.
hey.
Came down to $8. Which even last night, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered had I even put in another 10 because her dance was so much better. So but we all raised a lot of money, $144,000 for the community, local daycare, for the new building. And this is just an amazing thing in the community to be a part of. So very excited and
very nice.
done.
Yeah.
I'm
So
alumni.
what do you do for fun now?
Right now, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to sleep in my spare time and maybe do some projects around the house. Laundry might be a first on the list.
Awesome. All right. So Dr. Kim Cloco-McLean joins us, I see, from Norman. Kim, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all doing tonight? Aubrey, sorry to hear about how things ended.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry.
But before we move on, I have to give a big shout out to the whole WeatherBrains community and Weather Twitter, because and our WeatherBrains team, I had so many people donate from our crew, from our weather team. Everyone was amazing. So thank you, because in this case, it all came down to the dollars. So every dollar counted. And I did pull in an award for raising the most money on event night. So that was basically everything online from Friday through Sunday. So I got the People's Choice Award. So I did go home with an award, but thank you to everyone for sending in donations. I mean, the weather community is just amazing. So thank you. Sorry. Continue, Kim.
No, that's great. And I have to say, the weather community is proud of you. It was so cool to see you do that. I was rooting for you, and I know that we all were. So
thank you.
Yeah, it's been a joy to watch and follow. And I know at least it was a joy to do.
Oh, yes.
So that was fun. So yep, everything's good here. We're just enjoying, fall in the plains. That goes from being January to now we're back to about March. Who knows? Every day is a new adventure here, but it's good. It's good.
That's why we love weather. So Kevin, down the road in Wichita Falls, what's happening in your world?
Nothing, really quiet. Kim mentions fall. I feel, to me, you think up there, Kim, it feels like the colors have been very muted this year. Do you observe that or no?
Yep. No, they've been a little bit more muted than some years past. And there seems to be about a week where if you get a cold front that comes through, you can actually just lose your leaves really quickly. And that's what happened this year. So they started to turn. We had some color happening, and then we had that incredible cold front pass through last week, and it just took everything down. We really didn't get to have a long season to enjoy the leaves this year.
That was a windy one.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just waiting on James. Your famous saying, James, cut off low.
Weatherman's woe.
That's it. It's almost like a double-barreled one this time. So you kind of sit and you say, okay, the rain starts here, and then you add 6 to 12 hours and hope.
Yep.
Right, Troy?
Yeah. I don't know. I've been on a roll all day today. I've been looking forward to tonight to be the instigator.
Ooh.
Nice.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I don't know why. I'm just in
Throwdown.
sort of a roll all day today, taking care of things. But on the MMTS thermometer back behind me, National Weather Service Co-op station, got 51.5. And what's interesting, and we've kind of talked about this, and Kevin and all, especially in this part of the country, Bob Rose over at the Lower Colorado River Authority, chief meteorologist over there. I was talking to him today, looking at climate data out at Austin Bergstrom International Airport, our first order climate site, which is the old Air Force site here in Austin. So far, the month of November, Kim, this will tie to you, what you were saying as well. The month of November will be the second coldest start to a November that we've had so far this month in the period of record. And period of record out there goes back to 1942. And at Camp Mabry, which goes back 110 years or 20 years, this is the seventh coldest start to a November down here. So it'd be interesting to see if we can hold on to that during the rest of the month. We're going to warm up the next couple of days, but it's interesting.
All right, let's see what Dr. John Scala's doing. The man with the hair of an angel, John.
Oh, yeah.
You guys prompted me. I was just trying to look back through my record here to see how cool we got when that front went through. I think about 18, I think, is what we dropped down to. We finally got rid of that coastal low. So you were talking about a closed low beneath an upper ridge.
Yeah.
it's been a northeast stream of wind here for the last couple of days, but finally we're going to get rid of it. We reached 50 degrees today. I never thought we would get there with the low clouds and the drizzle this morning. And we're looking at probably 50s for the next couple of days before the next one zooms across.
Awesome. All right, Bill Murray, we got some important guests to bring on the show. Go.
Yeah, James. Tonight we've got the director of video and social media content for the My Radar app. Mike Linden's joining us. And Mike, you actually had James come speak at one of your classes one time, right?
Yes, when I was going through the Mississippi State broadcast meteorology program, James actually was the, I guess, keynote speaker coming down and talking about how important lead time is and just how important those watches and those warnings are to disseminate that information, whether it be over television, whether it be over social media. So it was cool to have James come and speak, and myself being a budding meteorologist watching WeatherBrains to see him there as well. So it was really cool to see him come and speak. But now I guess I'm in the weather enterprise with all of you as well.
Well, now even if you were watching WeatherBrains when you were a student, you could be an old guy now. As long as we've been doing this darn thing.
Thanks for bringing that up, Bill. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I feel like with life with a 2-year-old, each and every day that clock is just accelerating exponentially faster and faster.
Yep. We feel the same way. And I'm glad to watch it. Tonight he's got a weird shirt on. You know, I expect to see a TV shirt, and now I see a National Weather Service shirt from Brian, our old friend Brian Newdorf. Brian, tell us about your recent change in your career.
Yeah, after 18 years of broadcasting and television in Idaho, I was out there for 8 years. I'm closer to home. I'm from Indiana originally, so I'm in Indiana right now. I am the newest hire at the National Weather Service office in Louisville, Kentucky. I guess the big claim to fame, I survived a John Gordon interview. I should have a shirt with that.
Show title. Show title right there.
I didn't know what office you went to, and that's what you have to do. So how did you do it?
I still want to know that myself, but apparently I did it. So it was you know, got to give the office. They are very, very good about breaking down. John was the outline about how I was going to go through all of this, how many participants or how many potential candidates they had. And it went from like 80 something down to like, it was kind of the weirdest NCAA bracket I'd ever been a part of. Got to the final, I got to the Elite 8. Then I got to the final 3. I guess the one compliment that I took away was the fact that during one of the, it was a kind of a computer interview, but not on video yet. And of the interview people, of the 5 of us so far, I was number 5 of 8. I was the only one who met my times from 45-second to time. So I should take that as a compliment. No, I'm learning a lot, as they would like to say. It's kind of basically just a normal drink from a fire hose, all the training I'm getting compared to television.
Clearly you were a 1 seed.
Apparently, I didn't realize that. So,
so is that true, Brian? You were the 1 seed, huh?
Well, at the end of the day,
Came out of the West.
I feel like a Cinderella story, though. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. Well, now, Kim, that has to be fairly rare, going from broadcaster to weather service. You got any other case examples of that happening? Anybody? Kim? Anybody?
Off the top of my head. Oh my gosh, I know that there was.
No.
Oh, I'm going to kick myself. Can anyone else think of somebody? I feel like there's.
I do.
Another...
I know a few because I had to reach out to a few. But also, our warning coordinator meteorologist Joe Sullivan had spent at least 1 year in television. One of the meteorologists at Pocatello, who I got to know, John Keys, also did some time.
There we go.
Yep. Mark Fox did TV here at this station years ago.
Dave Snyder is in Alaska.
Oh yeah, yep.
And then I want to think Mike Canton, the MIC in Boise, also spent some time in broadcasting. They had earlier careers, but still, those are some of the examples that I can think of off the top of my head. So,
well, that's pretty exciting. Well, we're glad you're with us tonight, Brian. Thank you for joining us.
It's good to be in. I'm not having to. I'm now experiencing shift work for the Weather Service. I start my first mid trainings this week, so I get that going.
Hey, Brian, congratulations. I got to tell you that John Gordon's a good friend of mine. So he was actually keeping me abreast of this whole situation. And He was truly excited to have you on board. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. The office is great, and I'm learning a lot. I mean, I hear he talks very highly of me. Now I don't want to disappoint. No, we just had an event down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, Tennessee weather workshop. A great experience. It was neat. We had a panel of broadcasters. I did everything I could, not to jump in from that side of things. But I do know that they want some of those broadcasting skills.
Well, we're glad you're with us tonight, so we're looking forward to it. So just jump in anywhere you can, Brian. It's going to be kind of a free for all tonight. So, Mike, talk to us for a minute about how you came through the veil, your career, and how you landed where you are.
Sure. Well, I started in television as well. My dad, I mean, my entire life was in the news business in New York City. My mom is a science teacher, so you kind of put the two together, I guess, and you got broadcast meteorologist. From a super young age, every time I went to the television station, the person I always gravitated towards were the meteorologists and the weather team. They always seem to be having the most fun. And if you've ever been in a newsroom, it's more than likely the area of the newsroom where you can have fun on a regular basis in a news environment. But from there, I went all over the country, honing my craft, if you will, doing weather from the Pacific Northwest and the Tri-Cities to Lexington, Kentucky. So some of the names that you guys are throwing out there, Joe Sullivan, I interviewed him on the Kentucky-Tennessee line when a tornado touched down at like 8 o'clock in the morning. It was an October tornado outbreak. Gosh, just remembering the day and the year. It had to have been, 2014, 2015, right along the line there. It was nuts. That was one of the craziest days of my career, easily. And from there, got married to someone else in TV, a news producer, moved to Pennsylvania. And then from there, ended up in Orlando, Florida, working for the MyRadar weather app. So kind of a weird journey to end up all the way here, but having grown up in New York State, I'm not going to lie, it's 61 degrees right now here. So it's not that bad.
How could you leave Pennsylvania and go?
Yeah, it was difficult for a little bit, but I miss, of course, all the people there. The people are wonderful, and I feel like that's a constant no matter where you go in life. Most of the time, the people are really nice. And now here in Florida, starting a new life. It's really, really exciting getting into the other side of things in this new digital space that we all seem to be kind of navigating. I mean, I remember even back in college, professors talking about, social media. This is, going to certainly be the next phase in the way that we are going to reach people, whether it be with the warning information, whether it be with critical information in the event of a severe weather emergency, or just in general, reaching out to people and let them know that you're a human being and not just some news robot, behind the screen. And it really is incredible to see in just that short period of time the way that things have come, really.
Did they correctly predict that it would be the end of our society as we know it when they were telling you?
The Mayans, what was that, 2012? I don't know. I think they were wrong.
So you got your broadcast certificate from Mississippi State, right? Talk about that experience and how that was and how that was important to you, how that evolved for you, Mike.
Sure. I would say that for the amount of schooling that I went through, probably should have just been a doctor at this point. Seriously, with all that schooling, I went, got my undergrad at Ohio University, shout out to the Bobcats. And then from there kind of just needed to get going. Student loans, got to start paying for those. And hey, what do you know, took on some more going into Mississippi State as well. But it really was a really excellent experience to really round things off. Of course, taking a lot of courses at Ohio University, not only in the journalism field, but in the meteorological field as well. And just wanted to kind of hone things in even more, just to be able to learn as much as I can about weather. It truly is an amazing, amazing science. It being an applied science, every single day you're learning, even if you kind of know it all, which I'm not claiming in any way, shape, or form that I am that person, but it really is a humbling science where every single day it's just totally something different. Whether it was up in the Pacific Northwest, a totally foreign part of the country to me, on the eastern side of the Cascades, that's wine country. I mean, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful part of the country. You go just a couple of miles west, and it is a totally different ballgame, weather-wise and geographically as well. But weather is just it really is an amazing, amazing science. And all of my coworkers now at the My Radar weather app are most definitely in that camp as well. So it's really exciting to just do all weather all the time now.
I can vouch for your west of the Pacific Northwest, 8 years in Idaho in the Magic Valley. That area. So,
Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is not a secret anymore. I mean, that might be the most beautiful area in the country. Really
south,
might be.
Yeah, and then you go south into Idaho and Boise to Twin Falls, and it's about 50 shades of brown.
Boise, Idaho is another underrated American city.
Oh, it is. It's a very clean, very nice city. If people visit, they don't want you to stay though, but they'll let you visit.
That's pretty. But you mentioned your dad, Mike. He was in news. What did he do?
Well, he kind of did it all. I mean, he started at 19 years old coming out of Queens College in New York. He was on the assignment desk initially. I remember him saying that he answered the phone incorrectly and almost got fired like within the first week of his job at ABC7 in New York City. But from there, rose all the way up to assistant news director at the end. It was My Network News. It used to be a UPN station in Secaucus, New Jersey. But from there, I mean, just after having been in news his entire life, I mean, 35 years having gone through, I mean, you name it, whether it be 9/11 to the Miracle on the Hudson to the World Trade Center bomb. I mean, it just goes on and on and on with the news in New York City. So he was done. So my mom and my dad, when my brother and I were done with college, they moved south as well. And he's now the director of communications at Port Canaveral in Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Wow. So they're in Florida with you now, huh?
Yeah, it kind of was strange how it ended up this way. It certainly wasn't planned, but once this job opportunity came up, at least My Radar has offices in Orlando and in Portland, Oregon, so covering coast to coast. But it just so happened that it all kind of fell into place. Of course, my wife and I just had my parents' first grandchild as well, so that was an easy sell. Thank you. I'm just happy she's sleeping. She's in the room literally right here. So I am quiet. Yeah, I'm trying my best to.
I just put mine to sleep, and tonight was a little bit of an experience. So, how old is yours?
She just turned 2 at the end of September, and she's just now starting to like figure out how to manipulate everyone in the house, whether it be my wife, the dogs, I mean, everybody. So
Mike, don't worry about that. That'll end in about 20 years. So
I don't know. But she's a ham. So maybe she'll be on a TV someday. But yeah, she
if you're smart, you'll steer her away. No, just
hey, I mean, again, me even going to visit my dad at a young age. This is my son Michael. He wants to be on TV, and always the first response was, "Why? Why do you want to do that, Steve? Why are you telling him to do that?" That was always every single time, and I just blew right past that and ignored him.
Enjoy it now. I'm the dad of twins who are 18, freshmen in college.
Oh boy.
My youngest is a junior in high school. So, and I've steered him away. One closest I've got is the one of the twins who's in a freshman is wanting to do earth science education. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That's that's not a bad path.
It's a close one, Brian, though. Close one. Yeah.
Twins. Oh my gosh. You deserve an award. Really?
Yeah, twins when I started the television business. Keep in mind, I've been in the business 18 years and they're 18. So you know.
Man.
And it was that your last children were the twins, Brian?
Oh, actually they were the first.
They were the
youngest
first.
Is by himself, as my wife says, the twin and a spare.
Oh, that's nice.
He's great. He's getting a true high school experience, and now she's taking him to college visits tomorrow here in Indiana. So it's exciting time. So.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we'll go ahead and just book your daughter for show 2232. About the time she's following in your footsteps.
Hey, I mean, again, with my wife, is still definitely 2 feet into the news business, and me right in the weather business. It's kind of similar to kind of how my parents were. So I guess you never know. We shall soon see. I think I'm going to steer in that doctor lawyer route, maybe, but maybe she'll end up being tall. I mean, I'm like 6'3". My wife is like 5'7" ish. So if you average it out, hey, maybe she'll go play basketball in college. That'd be nice.
So James, you think we'll still be doing this in about 17, 18 years?
Yeah, man, we're just getting started. What do you mean?
Oh,
We'll
no.
be here.
You mentioned some seminal events that happened that revolved around New York City, and we're talking weather tonight, but always, 9/11 is an extremely memorable day in my life. Remembering what was going on that day. Any experiences that are unique that you can share that you ran across on that day?
Sure. So I was in 7th grade at the time, and I recall the principal. I apologize. The principal went out over the live speaker and said there was an aviation accident at the World Trade Center. We'll let you know more when we know. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then, of course, as things started to develop, things started to move at a different pace. Of course, my first thought is, okay, so that's where my dad is. Was just at the Windows of the World restaurant the week before. So, my mindset is like, just got to reach out to him if I can send him an email somehow, or see if my mom got in touch with him. But I didn't see him for 2 weeks. I was able to talk to him over the phone, but as I'm sure all of you know, they shut the entire city down. I mean, all the bridges, all of the tunnels, there was no getting in, no getting out. And of course, he was in a newsroom, and people are trying to bring them food and water, but they couldn't necessarily accept it because they didn't know necessarily where it was coming from. And I remember him telling me that was the first time that there were ever, members of the military in the newsroom with gigantic firearms. And he knew it was a very, very, very serious event. Of course, seeing what had happened in the events leading up to it. But yeah, I didn't see him for 2 weeks. I was able to talk to him on the phone super duper briefly. But that was a very, very, very strange moment, let alone in the history of the United States. But just, for me growing up 45 minutes away from New York City, it was a crazy day, to put it lightly.
And I have a similar, my dad was in the city as well. I was actually starting my career at KFYR in Bismarck, North Dakota. And I'll remember it because there's a weather tie-in. It's not weather related, but I tried to call them, landlines, and I get the message that says, due to the tornado in the area, you can't get through. I just remember that message. And my dad was supposed to fly out that evening, but he was in the city with my stepmom. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely crazy, but I remember that message I got when I called him that said, due to the tornado in the area, they had I'm guessing they just used whatever messages they could get out for all the lines being tied up. So, but no, I can understand being in the city, how it was shut down. They couldn't go anywhere. They had their apartment.
Yeah, that's it really. Yeah, it's wild how I remember everything like so crystal clear. And that happened very, very early in the morning. And that was, that was an all day thing for sure. But to tie it back, I guess, to weather, he was also working in New York City at the time of Hurricane Sandy. And I can recall that pretty vividly too, sending me pictures of New York City with zero power, zero lights, the spookiest thing to see Manhattan with no power and water all over the streets. Crazy. But yeah, I think he had enough news, and he moved south with the birds, got away from the snow.
Well, we were doing WeatherBrains the night that Hurricane Sandy came ashore. So yeah, we were watching a lot of that and covering it and trying to ferret out the rumors. Was there water in the stock exchange or, water in the subways? It was a terrible experience.
Yeah, that was a very chaotic event as well. I mean, stretching from Long Island all the way into New York City as well, just covering a ton of ground. And to your point, that was kind of when social media was really starting to ramp up. So yeah, tons of, fake news, for lack of a better term, getting thrown out there. And it, very, very hard to sift through all of that. I think we're a lot better at that now, but there were tons of photos of like alligators, like on the streets of New York City. Very, very, very strange.
A great white shark swimming down.
Yeah. I remember seeing something. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the poster to Cloverfield. That's a movie. pretty sure I saw that as well.
So Mike, talk for a minute about My Radar and the app itself. And, you know, it's a really, really popular app for sure, but it has a big, important education component to it, right?
Yeah, of course. By myself being in the TV news business, was using all sorts of weather radar apps. I mean, really all of them. And it just so happens with this app, they were starting to really ramp up their video portal side of things. So into the app, it looks like a YouTube button right on the home screen there. And if you tap that, you'll see all of this video content, from daily forecast videos to like kind of short story stuff to more elaborate features. We actually just did a piece on the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. Really, really excellent piece. A 3-part series looking at that. But the app in and of itself is constantly in the top 5 for the most downloaded apps on the Apple App Store, as well as on the Android store as well. We clock in at about 12 million active users a month, and that number is much higher as we go into hurricane season. All across the world, the app's been downloaded 45 million times. I mean, we have an audience mainly in North America, but I mean, we have a ton of users as well in Japan. Anytime that we are adding new radar information into the app, we seem to kind of get this big burst of activity wherever that is. And a lot of people reaching out over social media as well. So it's just cool to see people connect through something like the weather. I mean, it really is awesome to see that. And we're actually in the process of launching a satellite into outer space here at the end of the month. We're partnering up with Rocket Labs in New Zealand, and we are sending up what's called a pocket cube satellite. It's about 5 centimeters, about that big. It's tiny, really tiny. And that's going to go up there and listen to ADS-B signals for aircraft. So that's kind of the first of the satellites. And then we're working on another one in about a year to 18 months. That one is still kind of yet to be hammered down, but that one's going to be a little larger at 10 centimeters. And that one will actually enable My Radar users to obtain satellite imagery from a stereoscopic view. So we are really excited about that. So it's just awesome to work for such an innovative team. And I believe that we are the only weather app with a team of full-time meteorologists as well. So it's just cool
how are the satellites powered? Do you know that's small, and how long, what is their life expectancy?
So the life expectancy, I don't want to give you the wrong answer there. I don't necessarily have an answer to that question, but what I will say is that they have a bunch of solar panels on them. So once they're sent up into outer space and released with the payload, we're not the only satellite going up there. There's a bunch of them. They'll release them there, and the solar panels will make sure that the batteries are charged all the time. So we will definitely know if it is not functioning. Better believe that. But yeah, it's really awesome. I got to hold it in my hand the other day, and to think that this thing's going to be in outer space like in a couple of weeks is wild, let alone being sent in the mail to New Zealand. It's going to be cool. Up above us here soon.
So you didn't drop it like they did the GO satellite.
Oh, I was very aware of that, and made sure to hold it with 2 hands and hand it right back to my boss.
Mike, Troy Kimmel here. I love the app, and I was sitting there playing with it just now and happened to pull it up. A lot of information, a lot of information through there. I brought it up on Austin simply because we have 2 temporary flight restrictions that are posted for Wednesday, because we have the POTUS coming here to Austin on Wednesday. And so we're kind of getting ready for that. But I really like how all the information that y'all really have available through the app. I really think it's a cool app. So,
hey, appreciate it, Troy. For one, hook 'em. Shout out to UT.
Well, I'm actually an Aggie, but that's okay. But that's okay. But I'm okay. I hang around at the University of Texas as well.
All right.
But let me ask you another question though, Mike, because here's the app and you have it, but Mike, there's a lot of stuff out there. I'm wondering, are we getting to the point now where I hate to say it, but what I say at the top of the show, there's just a bunch of crap out there there's so many weather apps, it's hard to distinguish. I think you have a distinguishable product, But where do we go with all this? This stuff's got to thin out, Mike, doesn't it?
It really is a great point. And for us, a large part of that is us knowing that we have the team of meteorologists.
Yeah.
Our chief meteorologist, Leslie Hudson, has a lot of experience in the meteorological field. Of course, spending her time mostly here in the state of Florida. She's a hurricane expert, if you will. We also have meteorologist Stephanie Lauber as well on the team. So that kind of adds a bit of authenticity to it. But what I will say, Troy, is that yes, there is a lot of stuff out there. But one thing that I love about the app, and I'm not just, getting up on the company soapbox here, is the fact that you can turn on literally one piece of information in the layers. You can turn on two, you can turn on all of them. It's a lot, but it's customizable to literally what you want to look up in that moment or what you want to be prepared for. And like you touched on with a lot of the aviation stuff, there's a ton of that as well, from the flight charts that you can throw on every year. And our CEO actually was a pilot before he really was in the weather field. I mean, he wanted to simply know, am I going to be able to take off today? What's the weather going to be like? And hey, he kind of hit right at the right time, right at the launch of the App Store, and the rest is kind of history.
Well, let me ask you another question.
Sure.
I'm probably throwing gas on everything at this point, and I'd be interested kind of hearing Brian's view on this as well. From your standpoint, Mike, and let's pretend we can pull you away from the company for a second. I've just got to think the Weather Service has got to get an app. And my question from you, Mike, would be, would you be against? I mean, the Weather Service has a mission for general forecast preparation and for watch warning advisory for protection of life and property. And I think an app can be built to that I don't think intrudes on Mike's or maybe some other places like Pennsylvania and other places like that around the country. But what's your view on that? I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, hey, competition is definitely a good thing, even though I wouldn't look at the National Weather Service as competition. I look at them as I did when I was on television as well, as partners, no matter where I am. Those are the people I should be able to reach out to at really any hour of the day. I'm sure with Brian, I don't know what shift you're going to be working, but they're there 24/7.
Right.
And in those events, whether it be a tornado or hurricane or some kind of wild weather outbreak, they're sleeping in there as well.
Right.
So it really is a valuable resource, I would say, to being able to reach out to them. I think, though, if the National Weather Service were to have an app, I don't know. I really never have thought about that. That's very interesting.
Well, I as Bill and James and everybody else knows, I had the chance to visit for a while down in Huntsville with Louis. I pulled him aside for a few minutes, and that's the one thing I told him: Louis, we've got to get an app. And you can do it in the structure of the mission statement of the National Weather Service and not intrude, in my opinion. What the hell do I know? But in my opinion, on anyone else. But I just think there's not a government agency, guys, that doesn't have an app, except for the Weather Service.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you're hitting on the 1% of people that are out there that don't have any access to any of this information. I mean, this is taking it back to the beginning of the conversation here, when James came and spoke to me when I was at Mississippi State. You got to get that information out there. I mean, whether it's one person, whether it's 10 people, whether it's 100 people, you just have to get the information out there. So again, the more the merrier, especially in those emergency weather situations. Whatever you have to use to keep yourself and your family safe, hey, I'm all for it.
Hey, Brian, say something.
All right. Well, I didn't want to know. I didn't want to interrupt. No, I mean, it's funny. The joke has been in the office too. When I got there, was like, hey, we don't have an app. It's, they're kind of, it's kind of a sore subject, but I'm not sure what they would do now with all the weather apps out there. I mean, I can think of a couple of apps that are on my phone. That there's one that provides almost a lot of the stuff that the Weather Service would give out, and of course, push notifications and severe weather. I do know, and Kevin can knows this as well. There's been a big discussion the last couple of weeks or month of Cheyenne, Wyoming. Their Weather Service office was doing, and this may be pushing it a little bit, but they're in front of a green screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Their briefing.
Oh.
I may or may not be. I mean, we can't do Facebook Live. Our office is not doing that, but I can tell you right now, John's looking at me for that moment when that happens, and he's putting me in charge of the YouTube channel. Wants us to do more. I'm getting some ideas. I mean, as Joe Sullivan put out, as long as that mission to protect life, property, that that's the mission, and I've even said, we don't need to be doing things on blue sky initiatives as far as forecast goes. We can do, more things with our partners and get educational stuff out there, which benefits the whole weather enterprise, which is what the Weather Service is good for, climate stuff and all that kind of stuff. As far as in the office itself, and I've only been there for 2 months, my take, generally speaking, is there's a little bit of, they feel like they missed the boat on getting an app out there, and that stuff like that. They think they would like that idea, but there's, you get different types of people. I'm a rarity, being the extrovert, if you will, but of the most part, but still, I mean, there's a lot of ground we can do and a lot of people we can reach or at least help out. And when I was on television from the Weather Service, and as Mike pointed out, I don't care. When I was on television, you had a competition when it came to severe weather information. If it saved lives, I didn't care where they got their information.
100%.
Person, I don't care if it saves somebody's life. It's not competition time. It's just getting that information out there. And
I think Brian, that an app, especially in the watch, warning, and advisory sort of way from the Weather Service, a push sort of thing, I think would really be beneficial. And I think that goes along with what James says all the time, that we've got to get that message out. Weather radio is great, but the audience is limited. And this sort of thing, this is not so limited.
What does
I'm on a campus
Mussolini
with 50,000 students, and they have this thing tied to their head with earphones. I think it's the way to do it. And the question is how we get the watch warnings and advisories out. And I think the Weather Service could come across favorably with an app that could do that.
What does Mussolini say when you had him in Huntsville, Troy?
Louis listens.
You said we need one. What is his answer?
His answer is we are trying to look in the guidelines. Don't forget, there are federal guidelines which are in place. And I think you've got to look at that. But, if you say, Brian, and the men and women that work for the National Weather Service, that we're here to serve a mission, and we'll give general forecast out and we'll give watches, warnings, and advisories. I don't know how anyone could argue with that. But then you look at the great job that Mike and everyone have done, and you get that added. You're still Mike. You're still doing the added value stuff. Really added value.
Isn't the no compete with private and or commercial thing? That's not written law anywhere. It's sort of policy, right? Or am I wrong?
I think it's policy. I agree. But Dr. John Scully, do you know that?
No, Troy, I don't. I think it's policy, but I don't think
I tried to start doing a little bit of research on the history of that, and I got a little bit, and it's been some weeks since I did that, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it whatever it is, it's old, and it doesn't. Well, it is.
It's outdated. Then
it is outdated. It doesn't reflect how people are using and gathering information anymore. So it clearly needs to be revisited. And it was clearly, I don't know who started it. We can guess, but we know who has fanned that flame for a long time. And I'm sorry, AccuWeather, but well, it is. I mean, that's no secret.
Let's try Pennsylvania tonight. Yeah. Come on.
Well, they fan that flame, and there's obvious reason for it. But again, it's outdated. It was outdated when it began, but it's outdated even more now. And so to allow them to fan that flame just doesn't seem legitimate. But I don't know who do you have to push over to get that conversation seriously started if it's not Louis Mussolini.
Well, Louis listening. Believe me, I believe Louis listens.
Well, but for how long? I mean, this is now a decades old problem, and the iPhones are 10 to 15 years. Well, Kim's shaking her head. Go, Kim.
No, it's above his head. Unfortunately, it's not something that I think he controls. I think it's actually to do with. I think it's a commerce level problem, which supersedes even NOAA. As I understood it, I think it is a policy, but I think that it is held within commerce. So that's something to remember. NOAA is in this really strange place where we're in the Department of Commerce. It's even though it's the largest share of commerce in spending, it's the most forgotten piece. People who tend to lead commerce think that they're going to focus on international trade, and then they're handed NOAA. Like, okay. And it's quite common for us to be overlooked a bit in the policy making, at that sort of level. So I sort of see this as one of those wicked problems that, I mean, if it wasn't resolved when we did WEAs, I mean, WEAs are technically delivered through FEMA because of this, in part because of this difficulty. If it wasn't resolved then, I don't know when it ever will be.
So you're not that
Interesting.
hopeful about it though, Kim. I mean, your gut feel?
My gut feel is that my gut feel is the app is probably not going to be the way that we're going to gain some ground in the like thinking about how Weather Service could communicate in different ways that are likely to take place, in part because of some of the institutional challenges with just making an app and the network and service that's required. I don't know if you guys use Weather Service services for other things, but even chat, we've been trying to use it for experiments and maintenance on some of the basic communication systems is a difficulty, right? That's not trivial.
But here's Mike, presenting an unbelievable amount of data, probably some NDFD in there, some other Weather Service things are getting sucked into, your cloud somewhere, Mike, and it seems to be reliable and spits the information out. And why can't we get the Weather Service to that point, Kim? That just seems strange.
Well, maybe is it time to then change the message and the request? You say, oh, well, we want an app, or we want this, or we want chat, or whatever. Maybe it needs to be more foundational, where people start beating the drum and say, get this out of commerce, because it doesn't make any sense. All of the, it's kind of like, I mean, pick any argument, the way you bring it. I read something really interesting the other day, that there was research done on using the term global warming versus climate change. And the research was a branding exercise. And so that's why we now hear climate change everywhere. But that was, somebody, and it took some time, came up with a unified message. Maybe we're not bringing the right message. Maybe the message needs to be #get us out of commerce. Or
I mean, it's interesting. I think it would help if any of us could actually find the policy. I've been looking too. I found something that I thought was related, but I think this is something buried in public law. But what I will say is, while this might be for the moment a somewhat intractable issue, I think some of the stuff Brian was talking about is probably our next frontier. Thinking about the Weather Service as this organ for sharing information and communicating through all the various forms that are reaching people today. And while an app is just one way, to do that, creating novel kinds of content. I mean, look at actually both of you. I mean, moving from broadcast into the private sector and in the Weather Service respectively, you're both these bastions of great deep knowledge about how to communicate with people, and that you're being taken up into these institutions says a lot about, the way that they're transitioning. I'm interested, Brian, in your great, interviewing with John Gordon. Was that part of the vision for what brought you on, is some of that skill to help say, hey, our office, let's try to move in, maybe we can't fix the Weather Service's infrastructure, but we can try to innovate with what we have. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm already studying some of the other offices that are doing I think actively are doing YouTube, from Honolulu to Cheyenne. I know Pocatello's tried and do briefings, and briefings are good. And I've got some ideas. John, we've talked. I'm not going to give away everything, but because I'm not things have started yet. But I mean, John looked at me and goes, "I've got a plan for you." So he said, "I got a plan."
That's always what he says to you.
Run,
right?
Brian.
That's Mr. Gordon.
And it's surrounding YouTube. So I've upgraded my camera and got the new iPhone, so I'm all set. And I have a son who wants to do editing, so I've got a good plan, and he knows so much just weather history trivia that could be fun. And there's just so many things we talk about, and it's a very interesting television market, the Louisville, the Lexington areas around here compared to what I was used to. But the idea is too, John's mission in marketing is kind of a marketing, getting, people know of the Weather Service. Because I can tell you, when I was telling people I was leaving television and I was going to the National Weather Service, most people thought I was going to the Weather Channel.
Yeah.
That's just, that's
Well,
what the
just,
general
just
public
walk in tomorrow,
thought.
Brian, and tell John you're a bastion now. So
Bastion.
Hey, one thing, Brian.
I'm a little nervous. I forgot to tell him that I was doing this because I almost forgot that I was doing this. So.
Well,
One thing I'll throw in there, Brian, having worked in Kentucky, is that as soon as you start putting that information out there and they start to trust you, I mean, you're in Louisville, so I can't speak to the cards out there, but the Big Blue Nation of the UK Wildcats, they will follow you till the ends of the earth. To this day, when I go live on my Facebook or post anything, I literally took on my Instagram story, my private Instagram, a shot of my dog at the vet today. And somebody from Kentucky, the Big Blue Nation, reached out to me today to talk about my dog. So
cool.
they will follow you. They will adopt.
I was briefly on as a stopgap. I didn't have a start date with the Weather Service, so I did freelance briefly in the Louisville market. And now I can't freelance anymore. That was shut down. NASCAR weatherman still going. That's still out there on Twitter. So I'm not doing, it's just a hobby at this point, but still enjoying doing the NASCAR weather as well. So that's been gone to the ethics. They haven't gotten back with me, so we'll see.
Hey, Kim, let me ask Kim and Mike a question. Kim, don't mean, maybe it's just the Aggie in me down in Texas. But you say, okay, the app may not be where we want to go. And I guess my question is, people rely on this so much. What is the next thing, Kim or Mike? I mean, is there something out there that even Kimmel's missing down here? That what is the next way that people get watches, warnings, advisories, and weather information?
That's a great question.
Mike being from an app developer, I'd say, apps are really hot. I'd love to know what you think. Obviously, apps are huge. I don't mean to understate just how important they are. I think that part of me looks at the kind of apps that Mike is developing and others and sees, does the Weather Service have to get into this space? The one kind of concern, and Mike, while you're brainstorming, what you think the next gen is, I will say the one concern I have with some apps is with the motive to drive eyeballs to the app. Some of them are created in such a way that they don't have the same kind of geographic specificity baked into them, because they might be county-based or even larger region. There are technical reasons for some of that too, but sometimes, the Weather Service can try to drive innovations in something like that in trying to be very geo-targeted, but that's not in the interest of the app developer. And that's the only, thing that I've seen raised as an issue by other people that I think is a difficulty, but otherwise I think there are a lot of great apps that do a lot of wonderful things, and we should try to partner with them.
But but I also wonder too, because you and I've worked together at the test bed there in Norman before, and I know that with all the warning, some of the stuff that we're seeing in development, I can say, I guess, for the future, how that stuff will end up getting out to the public.
It's going to be critical. That's a real opportunity.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away from Mike, but the one thing I remember, I think it was about a year ago too, under the Trump administration, they did this big kind of massive test that went to everybody's phones. Yeah. What if the National Weather Service could do something like that the different forecast offices for their area could just push a warning, the geotagging, that way developers and stuff wouldn't have to necessarily worry about that because that is life property and stuff like that when it's a warning.
Well, Brian, Brian, help me out, because you should know this and I can't. What's the stuff that you can turn on your phone? What's that called again? You turn the switch on your phone to receive, and they're changing that now for flash flood warnings. I about had a stroke during a meeting down here not too long ago that we had. Well, no, they're gonna eliminate, James, the flash flood warnings, the initial ones, and only go with the worst considerable flash flood warnings. I don't get that. The number one killer is flash floods here in South Central Texas. I don't care whether it's considerable or whether it's a flash flood warning basic. They should all go out. And that's why I don't think the federal government could screw up a rock fight. The Weather Service should be running how the Weather Service information gets out. in addition to the people like Mike and people who are doing that. I don't need cell phone companies, and they can use the technology here, but again, I don't want the federal government and the FEMA deciding how we're going to get warnings. I want the Weather Service to do that.
It seems to be a real kind of slippery slope, if you will, because if it's is it each individual office creating an app? Is it a national weather service app? Who are going to be the people updating that? I mean, is that information going to come from local offices? I mean, if it were just me, I would say there's room in the pool for everybody. But I think from even the broadcast perspective, and I mean, I feel like I'd been hearing this for years in TV as well, but ATSC 3.0, I think when that does become a reality, if and when that ever is going to happen, I think there could be something there as well. But to all of your points, I think adoption and getting everyone to adopt it, whether it is like that test that Brian brought up, that was, I mean, you didn't have a choice. That went out to everybody, kind of like an Amber Alert, whether it's down that route or whether it is you're relying on everybody adopting it. So it's, again, it's going to be tough, it seems like, either way. But it is certainly, it certainly is interesting. But
Mike, are the apps here to be for the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, technology, I mean, gosh, if you're trying to predict what technology is going to do even tomorrow, I mean, it can surprise you with just the breakneck speed at which it is moving.
Yeah.
So
I'll go on record as ATSC is dead on arrival, because
Really?
I don't think that device manufacturers are going to embrace it. And then I don't think that without that, people are going to go off and get another thing.
Right.
I think this is an effort by a couple of broadcasters to, and I heard this this phrase the other day. It's what everybody wants now is to own this, what they call owning the stack. Disney came up with Disney Plus because they didn't own the stack. They had the content, but they didn't have the distribution. And then you look at Apple. Well, Apple has the distribution, but they didn't have the content. So both of them are coming to try and own the stack. And what's going on with the broadcasters is they want to own the stack, and the part they don't have or they're losing is the distribution. But you're going to have to get everybody on board with what the distribution is. And I don't think the device manufacturers have any motivation. Apple certainly doesn't, and Google certainly doesn't have any motivation to support that.
Right.
So I can't see where it's going to go. I get their motivation for trying it, but the broadcasters are left in an interesting, there's a really famous old saying called the internet, or says the internet eats middlemen. And broadcasters are increasing, well, we are middlemen, because the only local content for the most part that's being created is the local newscast, and that's being eaten away by a lot of different things. So that's my prediction. Somebody put a flag on the tape. We can come back to it.
Yeah, clip that right there. I thought when you said an expression from TV that you were going to say was "do more with less." I can't tell you how many times I heard that. I can't tell you how many times that I heard that.
Amen.
So yeah, it's a very interesting predicament, really, because getting that information out there is important. But what I will say is that you kind of just have to look just a couple of generations behind you, and you can see that, I mean, that wave is coming. I mean, I've asked even my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, what do you watch? And most of the time, it ain't TV. It ain't TV at all.
Sure.
It's whether it's YouTube or finding content on his own. That wave is coming, and that is going to be a tidal wave when it does arrive. And everyone's kind of going to have to figure out how to evolve, really, to get to this place where we can, again, all coexist.
Well,
so,
maybe James knows the most about ATSC, don't you? How is that to be received?
No. I as I understand it, you have to receive it over the air, right?
Right.
Yes. Yeah, on a device that receives it, right? I mean, there was talk back in the day, Apple needs to turn on the FM receiver on the iPhones. Well, guess what? That didn't happen, and nor is it going to. But to receive video, they're going to have to jam that. There's no way they're going to jam that in the phone at the request of a bunch of broadcasters. There's no reason for it.
I mean, I really
what percentage of people are seeing television over the air now? Kevin, do you know?
10% or less.
Yeah. It's probably gone up a little bit with the cord cutting, but it's still a very small
That could
percentage
be.
of people
That
that are.
could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say, I remember
It
hearing a
was-
statistic somewhere along the lines that, what is the percentage of Americans that still don't own a television capable of producing a signal in HD? And that number is still rather high. So I guess, Kevin, to your point, getting people to, buy this new device potentially, if that is how it's going to work, could potentially be an obstacle. But
Well, even before that, you have to get somebody to make it.
right.
Who has motivation to create the device, especially if their market research says that no one's going to buy it. Well, then no one's going to go there.
Yeah, I mean,
So then you're into a chip that has to be jammed into the phone.
Right. I mean, this thing right here is the portal to the world. So
Right.
if there's some way that this thing can, I mean, we're doing it, I guess, at My Radar with being able to connect with people, but for everybody to be able to connect with everybody, I mean, we're there kind of, but we need that next step to make sure everybody is on this interconnected.
I for a long time didn't understand the ATSC, what was going on, but I think it's that owning the distribution channel, the owning of the stack was the phrase that kind of made, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Certainly hadn't thought about it in that way. But the technology is interesting in theory, I guess. But I guess a lot of things have been great in theory, like the Concorde airplane. That was great in theory too. So who knows?
So, Mike, y'all are doing some new video stuff. What's the purpose and goal behind that, and how are you doing it?
Well, as I kind of mentioned before, I mean, content is king. And if you are not producing content, whether it be on a daily basis or at least on a regular basis, I'll say, you're going to get left behind. And to be able to do a daily forecast, that we do a national kind of forecast, at least as of now. We have plans to do a regional forecast where we're going to break things down all across the United States. Super excited for that. We're actually working with former CNN correspondent John Zarella, who has a ton of experience in the aviation and specifically the space, the world of space. He's actually producing a space series of videos for us, and one of those is going to be coming out tomorrow. Getting to drop that here on WeatherBrains this evening. So
breaking news.
There you go. A video dropping tomorrow
Soundboard, James.
on SpaceX that we're really, really excited about. So I'm really excited to work for a company where we're producing that kind of content, whether it be the weather, the educational, the environmental, the climate content. And we have plans for a lot other than what I just mentioned there. So it's an exciting time, let alone to be in the world of weather, but just to be in the digital space. It's very, very exciting.
Well, James, if you're not paying attention to your chat over there, I have to sign off at 9:30 so I can go pack for a 5 a.m. flight. I think all flights before 10:30 should be outlawed.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody wants to add? Thanks for all the great participation tonight. But
well, one thing I have to say for Brian, just to let you know, I'm getting a couple of texts now on this thing. When I said the federal government can screw up a rock fight, let me clarify that for
Should be a T-shirt.
What I meant is the federal government at the highest levels. It is a huge screwed up mess with weather related stuff. Let the Weather Service make these decisions. And that's what I was speaking of, Brian. The men and women.
No offense. I'm still new. Okay, I'm a lot closer to television in this time frame wise than I am in the National Weather Service.
I don't want FEMA deciding the type of things I'm gonna get on a cell phone. I want the Weather Service to have that. They know what they need to get out there to the general public, and let's let the Weather Service do that job. We got the men and women that can make that decision.
And I can tell you, our office, and quickly, I know I don't want to, our office is trying to reach out to our partners to make them understand chat, and I can make them understand INWS, to, really work with emergency managers, our media partners, and even, we're trying to even get some of our, to maybe get out more into the counties that we have. We have a large county area, and let our meteorologists on Blue Skies days get out there and work that kind of thing, to be more out there and relating one-on-one. So there's a face with this organization, at least locally. So,
yeah.
And Dr. John and I get to have dinner tomorrow night, James. We're really
what are y'all chatting about here? What's going on?
Well, I keep reading about this Lancaster, Pennsylvania being the greatest place in America. So we're gonna actually go there tomorrow night and work on a project. And Dr. John Scott is going to join us for dinner.
Well,
Wow.
I'm sure James, you got your invitation to that dinner, didn't you?
Oh yeah,
everybody's
right. Yes.
always invited.
Lost,
No, that's
lost
not
in the
that
mail.
far from me. I could have come up.
It's not that far away. You can just come on down.
All right.
So,
Hey,
anyway.
Lancaster,
let's
Go ahead.
let's pause here for Tony Rice, and we're going to come back. We'll do weather roundup, picks of the week, and a lot more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
You may have read about the Alpha Monocerid meteor shower, set to peak this Thursday, November 21st. Meteor scientists Peter Jenkinson and Esko Luutinen, pardon my Finnish, made some bold predictions about a possible outburst this year, like those observed in previous years, as many as 400 per hour. Yeah, about that. A ZHR of 400 was observed in 1985, again by Jenkinson and his team during an outburst he predicted in 1995. Jenkinson did literally write the book in 2007 on meteor showers and their parent comets. But that doesn't mean we'll necessarily see 400 meteors in an hour on Thursday, or even all night. The reasons lie in the very definition of ZHR, the word outburst, and the nature of this shower itself. I spoke with Bill Cook of NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office in Huntsville. Bill monitors these things with the safety of spacecraft and astronauts in mind. Bill reminded me that, to a meteor scientist, an outburst doesn't necessarily mean a meteor-filled sky. It simply means a significant increase in the activity over the usual levels. That doesn't take much for the alpha monocerids, which normally produce about one observable meteor per night. Not per hour, per night. Weather has its commonly misunderstood concepts. In astronomy, ZHR tops that list. Zenith hourly rate is a handicapping system of sorts used to enable comparisons of meteor showers, varying locations under varying conditions. It mathematically places the observer in the most optimal conditions, removes clouds, light pollution, even the horizon. It's a best case scenario. As an example, that 1985 ZHR of 400 comes from observation of just 27 meteors seen over 4 minutes' time. So, whether you're a broadcast meteorologist or just sharing information with friends and family, please stop using ZHR numbers. You're just setting up people for disappointment. So what does all this mean? The bottom line is that the Alpha Monocerid meteor shower could produce quite a show. This variable meteor shower has a history of quick bursts of activity, and you won't have to stand outside in the cold all that long to see it either. The model predicts significantly increased activity over 15 to 40 minutes centered on 11:50 p.m. Eastern, or 10:50 Central. I'd head out about 11:30 Eastern and look low on the eastern horizon, but I share Bill Cook's sentiments. If the Alpha Monocerids produce an outburst, we'll both be pleasantly surprised. That's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
Oh, Aubrey, do we have time for email by chance?
Sure.
Well, let me play the email song here, because just maybe there's one or two in there in the good old email inbox.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
So I'm pulling. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So someone just
You gonna clue us in there?
Yeah.
or-
So someone just sent us an email, and all it says is ThorGuardLawsuit.com.
Yep.
Did you look at
Yeah.
that?
And that's what I was pulling up, and it goes into it.
Yeah, that was out there when they were on the show.
Yep.
So if you're interested in reading that, it's just right there in the name, ThorGuardLawsuit.com. All right. Today is the 18th. Okay. So I'm still getting caught up on my emails, so I apologize. Next week I will be much better. I promise, now that I have stopped my dancing. So this is from Matt Switzer. Good morning, WeatherBrains. Just listened to episode 721, and it's so weird to hear my hometown, Paradise, California, mentioned across national media. I'm a park ranger and recently relocated my family The devastating wildfire season in Northern California is just one of the reasons why we chose to leave the Golden State. We now call Fort Payne, Alabama, our new home. Kevin, I too watched Fire in Paradise. Definitely had me tearing up. So thanks for a great weekly show. I'm glad I discovered you guys way back in 2008. Kevin, tell us again about Fire in Paradise.
Oh, it was a Frontline special,
Right.
the PBS show Frontline, and it was my pick of the week, I think 2 weeks ago. So if you want to see that, Troy watched it. The pictures are just amazing. I mean, they keep reminding you, it looks like it's literally the middle of the night, and it's 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning inside of this smoke cloud and the fire. And
Right.
it was a really, really, really interesting show. I hope he's not calling
start
us
watching that
national
thing-
media, though.
Yeah. Well, once you start watching that, Kevin, you cannot quit watching it.
Yeah, no, it's real good. It's less than an hour, so it's worth your time.
We have another message and a photo from Gavin Groth. I recently got into photographing storms and lightning. I saw a lightning photo that I took that was really cool. The best I figure is that it features some sort of leader, which appears to be coming from the light post. Hope someone can help me with what's happening here. As a side note, I took this photo right when the EF3 Elk Mound, Wisconsin tornado was on the ground. Thanks in advance. And Dr. John Scala replied, great image. You captured an upward directed leader or the ionization channel originating from the pole. So great photo. That's a really interesting photo, Dr. John. I was just kind of looking at it. I know I kind of glanced at it earlier tonight.
Yeah, that's a remarkable image. To be able to catch something like that that's there for about a millisecond, that's really a remarkable shot.
There's some just fascinating lightning photos. I feel like, at least once a week on Twitter, I'm just seeing something almost more and more fascinating when it comes to lightning, especially. So really great capture. And I think that is actually all that we have. So if you have a great email at weatherbrains.com, maybe a cool link, guest suggestion with some contact information, something cool that you think we'd want to see, or just some great weather information that maybe you came across on that wonderful internet that you found. We'd love to hear it. Email at weatherbrains.com. My brain is still mush.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
So we're doing this update here on the 18th of November. We are getting awfully close to Thanksgiving. And Brian, let's start with you, man. What's happening in Indiana?
Well, not a whole lot. So it's good to be back home for me, though. That's a good one. And but weather-wise, we've had gray skies, and all now I'm seeing is when I'm doing these things is I'm trying to figure out how to write a very effective TAF. So all those trainings and stuff like that. So all that training. I mean, I'm probably going to earn another degree in the next year or so. Just at least it's going to feel like it with all the things going on.
Awesome. All right. So Aubrey and Harrisonburg, you're going to warm up a little bit in coming days, aren't you?
Yeah, we're actually going to start to finally rise a little bit in temperatures. I kind of joked on air the other night that I didn't realize how much I'd have to lower my standards with weather. Just some sunshine, light wind, and 53, 54. I mean, is that too much for a girl to ask for? I mean, it's been really chilly here lately, and it's stuck in some clouds. And yeah, so looking forward to some sunshine and some slightly warmer temperatures. And we'll be lucky if we hit 60, which would be nice. And we'll see if we can get there. But 50s and some sunshine, I guess that's all we can get.
John, you say you hit 50 today, huh?
Yeah, remarkable. Yeah,
we did. We only got to 46.
We did 74.
No,
46 as well.
75 here
in Texas. We could have.
Wow, what does that feel like?
I guess, John, when we get to maybe March or April, we'll feel that again.
And your hands thaw. Yeah.
So has anybody looked ahead to Thanksgiving week with this pre-Thanksgiving storm
Oh.
we're seeing here?
I saw some stuff on some Euro ensembles that it was getting active, but I
This
have
is
not.
an incredibly progressive pattern.
Yeah.
If you could board hang in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Next one's right down the pike.
Right.
Yeah, the wave train is cranking, and it looks like there might be some type of long wave, kind of negative tilt trough toward the middle of next week. And of course, who gets what, we don't know yet. But this could be, snow for cities like Chicago at some point during the week. Who knows when? Maybe Milwaukee or Minneapolis, and then you got rain and storms in the warm sectors. So you don't want the airports to be boogered up the day before Thanksgiving. That's a mess.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't know the timing of this thing yet, but it looks interesting next week. And also for our East Coast guest over here, Aubrey and John, you're the closest we have. We got a tropical system out here, a wave this east of the Leeward Islands. You guys been watching this? Don't get these that often in November, but you can. This is still technically the hurricane season. One is out there. It's probably going to move north. I don't think it'll be a threat to the United States, but that's a reminder we are still in hurricane season. So, Mike, what's happening down in Florida?
I had to bite my tongue here, hearing all of you guys talking about it being chilly. I remember a year ago when I first moved down here, I was making fun of one of my coworkers for wearing a hoodie to work. And big shout out to our video editors, Matt and Damien. Matt was wrapped up in a blanket. I'm like, what are you doing? It's wonderful out here. And today I wore a long sleeve jacket to.
Oh no! Are you I'm chilly when it's 60 kind of person now?
Listen, again, I grew up in the cold, shoveling snow. When I was in northeastern Pennsylvania, we got down to 22 below pretty routinely in the winter. Had frozen pipes and everything. But I don't know if I would trade that for it's again 60 degrees right now.
Changed.
Yeah, it's I've definitely become a bit of a weather wimp, if you will, in that regard.
You lose your acclimation so quickly. I grew up around
really
Chicago,
quickly.
Northern Indiana, and being in Oklahoma just a year or two, it was very sad.
What I will say though is that the humidity, no thank you. No thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was at Disney World taking my daughter for the first time. It was brutally humid. And there's no escape at all.
Mike, that big area off the coast, it's blue.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of moisture there.
A lot of water. A lot of water.
Yeah. So
I will tell you this. I lived in Florida for a year. I barely made it a year, and that's it. I couldn't do it. I moved away. I could not do the humidity. It was too much. It was that and the traffic, and I said, I'm done. Can't live in Florida. I will visit, but that's it. I couldn't do it.
That was the big shock coming back after living in the high desert of Idaho, where we started getting a little angry when the dew point hit 50. Okay.
Hey, the Northwest and the West Coast has its positives. I mean, football kicks off at 10 o'clock in the morning. That is hard to beat. And Monday night football's at 5 o'clock. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Get that beer at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I was in that weird, like not natural time zone called the mountain time zone. So
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Kevin, you say you got an upper low coming. You got some weatherman's woe there.
Yep, cut off low, just waiting on the kicker that's coming down the West Coast, and we'll see when the rain starts. That's about it, really.
Kim, I guess you got the same issue, huh?
Probably. I have to say, I have to mea culpa on this. I have no idea what the forecast is. I work in the National Weather Center. There's hundreds of us. Last week, but we're all
a researcher.
We're researchers. We have no idea what's actually happening outside.
Wow.
It was pouring, and I went to leave, and I stood there with 5 other people, and we just went, And
I should have known this.
Right? Who knew it was going to rain today? It was like an absolutely certain forecast. Like none of us had even looked. We're terrible. I mean, yes. So I guess, yes. Probably. whatever is going to befall Texas will probably hit us first.
Yeah.
Kim, you may not know this, but hanging from the ceiling in the lobby, there's a big round thing that shows you the weather that's going on there.
We have this entire wall dedicated to forecast information.
Right.
I've worked. I mean,
The Earth. Yeah.
Of the
Tim,
Weather
don't feel
Channel.
bad. I'm working in an operationals office, and all the training I'm doing, half the time I have to like go, what is our forecast? This, so I feel the same way.
Oh my good gracious. It's very
I'm in
kind of
research.
you.
I don't have time for the little people. All right, so I turned into a pumpkin here in a minute. We got to do picks of the week here. So Bill had to catch an early flight, so he's already gone. My pick of the week, it is a piece that is titled "Earthquake Conspiracy Theorists
There you
Are
go.
Wreaking Havoc During Emergencies."
Yeah.
So we're not alone. Our friends in geology have the same weird issues that we do in the weather business of these bizarre forecasts, and people just eat it up. They don't care what's true, what's not true. They're just going to flock to this stuff. So it's a very interesting read, but again, it's a little bit of our friends over in the geology side. So
That was
Kevin?
interesting too, because one of the television stations got caught in one of them, and you explain it. It's your pick.
And like I said, they used the fake news on the air and thought it was real. It's just strange. But I got to go do the 10 o'clock, Kevin. So the show belongs to you now. Go.
I have a 10 o'clock too.
Oh, well, John, Troy, somebody, Kim, please.
I'll volunteer to go next because I have a good follow-on from yours, James, inspired by yours. I guess I'll
go.
Just take it. I'll just
you take it. You take it and run with it.
Yep. All right. So inspired by his pick of earthquake realm, also has the social scientists who are on social media. Gosh, I denigrate my own profession. But the people who are sort of providing countervailing messages about risk. It made me think about the L'Aquila earthquake. I think we all sort of remember a little bit about this. It's been about 10 years, but that became famous for the geologists in Italy who were imprisoned because they were trying to tackle people who were giving essentially forecasts that were not scientifically credible. And I wanted to provide, as we're talking about, trying to debunk people, there was a lesson that was important to learn out of L'Aquila. It's detailed in the article. But the reason that those scientists were imprisoned wasn't because they gave a forecast that was wrong. And that was what was popularly understood to happen. It wasn't that they failed to forecast the earthquake and some other guy did. What happened was that they got on national TV. They said, not only are these guys not credible, but there will not be an earthquake. We guarantee it. Ooh. And they were convicted of violating what's called the precautionary principle. And that's where if there is the potential for risk, if you say that there's zero, you're actually liable for the consequences. So just to, a note of caution to our colleagues in the earthquake community and even ourselves, if there are people who are going around, hyping up a threat, if there is any potential, even small probability that it could occur, it is not in your best interest to say that the risk is zero, because that people will believe you, and it just you can talk about them not being a credible source all day long. That's fine, but do not take it to discrediting the potential for something to go wrong. And with that, I said I was going to take the baton, so let's go ahead and finish going around the room. Kevin, what do you have for us?
I have something I need to find. Here it is. It's a Scientific American article. It's called "Earth May Have Just Seen Its 8th Strongest Tropical Cyclone on Record." It uses Super Typhoon Halong. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not, but it's really a nice article because it has some good historical information and perspective on the development of the Dvorak scale, both the human version and the one where computers look at things. And I thought it was very interesting.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Troy, how about you?
I found this book, and we may have discussed this before. By the way, it's the second week in a row I've had a pick of the week and have been dependent on that. So someone can pick up the phone and call Guinness World Records at this point. But one of the Smithsonian books written by actually author Sammy Chittum, Southern Storm, The Tragedy of Southern Airways Flight 242. April the 7th, April 4th, 1977. Really interesting story about the Southern Airways DC-9 that because of black and white radars and the FAA, and also in the air traffic control centers and in the cockpits, actually was steered into a hail shaft, essentially. Really an interesting book. And this is one that's about a year old, and it's just something, it makes for a good read. I'm about halfway through it. And that's always been one of the aircraft accidents that I've always been really interested in. To read about it is really kind of chilling. It actually, that accident, the Southern Flight 242, is what brought us our National Weather Service Center weather units in the FAA centers around the United States, and still continue today.
That sounds fascinating. Thank you. Great share. Is Kevin signing off?
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Have a good show. All right, I'm just kind of going around the circle of my, the TV screen here.
Me next. I got to go into do me next. I got to go into show.
All right, let's go for it, Aubrey.
All right, so mine is from Judah Cohen with some Arctic oscillation and polar vortex blogging information about winter, since everyone's doing their winter forecast. I know I keep getting bugged on it, and I have not done a winter forecast. I haven't had time to. Maybe it might come out. I'm not really sure. So, but he always has some amazing stuff. So I'm, yeah, looking forward to reading that, and it's great stuff, and always love his tweets. So that's some really great information about winter forecasts.
Yeah, if you want to learn about teleconnections,
yes,
read what Judah Cohen writes. It's fantastic.
Great. Excellent share. Very timely, good stuff to be looking at this time of year. Thank you, Aubrey. Have a good show.
See you, Aubrey.
See you, Aubrey.
Brian and Mike, I'm giving you a second in case you hadn't prepared something. If you want to, the pick of the week is just a quick little article. We'll go to John, and then we'll come to you guys. John, what do you have?
Yeah, sure, Kim. Too bad that Kevin signed off, because my initial thought process began with his email about a job opening at AccuWeather. If you saw that, but
yeah,
it was pretty funny to look at the qualifications. So I sent back some rhetorical information about that. But what triggered that was, or my thought process was, a recent article done by the Capital Weather Gain about the limits of predictability. And a really interesting article about where those limits are, despite the fact that AccuWeather will provide you with a 45 or 90-day forecast. And within that article in Capital Weather Gain, they mentioned a refereed article, which is the one you really want to read. And that I'm also, so my pick of the week is actually two. It's the Washington Post article plus an article that appeared in one of the AMS journals on the limits of predictability. So if you think there are not limits, there are.
Yeah.
It's a nice refresher, a good reminder. Don't believe everything you read.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you, John. All right, let's get to our guests and some of your picks. Brian, did you have anything selected? You looked.
Yeah, I've been on the show before, and I'm glad I remembered. I was like, I better find something. Well, through all the training we've been doing, and we've had a couple of winter workshops. These have been, again, the one thing, and this is one of the big reasons I left television, was I wanted to grow as a meteorologist. And not that you can't do that in television. I just felt like, as a meteorologist, my best round was going to be someplace outside, and this opportunity presented itself. So I became onto this, and I even know some of our broadcasters are using this. So if you go to the Weather Prediction Center, you click on some of their winter stuff, you will find what we call the WSSI, or the Experimental Winter Storm Severity Index. And it's a nice little thing to kind of give people, and this is experimental, so if you do check this out and you use it a little bit, they would love your feedback. But it just kind of gives an idea of how particular storms and the winter weather this season could impact, from a light blue, which is limited impacts, to the yellow minor impacts, to all the way up to moderate, major, and extremes. And of course, this goes along with a lot of the decision-based, impact-based decision support that the Weather Service is going to.
Yeah, it's pretty great innovation. Very cool. I really encourage people to check that out. Great pick. Thank you, Brian. All right, Mike. So besides your adorable puppy that you've been,
you've got to introduce us, Mike, we got to have animals on the show. We got to get the ratings up a little higher.
Hey, so my wife has the Shiba Inu in the other room. She's usually the one on camera stealing the show, but this is Prince. He actually just got a haircut the other day. So.
Hey, Prince.
Yeah.
He's a long-haired dachshund Pomeranian, so he's
I have one of those. It's like a Pomchawini, so he's out there back to keep him quiet.
Yeah, we actually got him when I was still in the Pacific Northwest. So he's literally followed us, my wife and I, through every single TV market. He's been on TV, I think, in almost every single market. He's been B-roll in a couple packages too. He's followed us around everywhere, but he's a bit of a grump, those small dogs. You know how they are. Anyway, I guess my pick of the week, being that I guess it's my debut on the show here, I guess I'm taking in a bit of a different route, I guess, if you will. I just wanted to bring attention to, I guess, what's deemed, a catastrophe right now in Venice, Italy. Just some of the worst flooding that the city has absolutely ever seen. According to local reports there, the peak tide was 1.5 meters above sea level. Just insane. 70% of the city, as of Sunday at least, was still underwater. And I found this fact particularly shocking. Since record keeping began in 1872, that level, again, 1.5 meters above sea level, has never been reached even twice in a year. So that is the pictures, the images coming out of it is truly, truly remarkable. In the worst way. Seeing St. Mark's Basilica submerged in water is truly a sight that I guess you don't necessarily want to see. So it's truly a disaster that's occurring over there, and it needs to have attention brought to it. So unfortunately, it seems like things like this could potentially could continue to occur. So it's something that we have to, I guess, continue to watch. But this is just the pictures and the video is surreal coming out of Italy.
That absolutely has been. Thank you. It's a wonderful share. We hadn't had a chance to discuss it, but absolutely a really interesting and catastrophic event, as you mentioned. Well, thank you both so much for being on the show tonight. It was great. It's so obvious when we have people who have a background in broadcast to come and join us. You have the most wonderful stories and just, really wonderful presence. Thank you so much for offering your time tonight. It was great to have you both.
Hey, I don't want to speak for Brian, but being a former broadcast meteorologist, when you give me more than 2 or 3 minutes to a hit, I'm gonna run with it. So hey, 1.5 hours or however long we've been on the air, let's keep going.
Yeah. You know how to grow to fill the container. The skill you have. It's wonderful. All right, well, any other comments, thoughts for any of the other panelists or guests to share? All right.
No, we're good. But thank you guys for having me back on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Tell John I said hi, Brian.
I will.
Yeah,
John.
do that. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys, as well. I really, really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Good to see you, Mike.
Good work, Mike, down there.
Thank you. Stay warm, everybody.
Yeah, we'll try.
Right.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Have a great night, everybody.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. A fun show tonight. Great to have Brian and Mike with us, and got to get back here and wrap up the news here. So we'll be back next Monday. We're on regular schedule for a while. We'll see y'all next Monday night. Thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend.